Hey, good evening, everyone. Let's go ahead and get started. Let's start by saying our pledge, reciting our pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right. Good evening, everyone. Sorry for the delay as we were experiencing some technical difficulties. All right, so let's go ahead and start with roll call.
Mrs. Strite? Here. Mrs. Sullivan?
Here.
Mrs. Fortney? Here. Mrs. Zimmerman?
Here.
Dr. Royer?
Here.
Mrs. Miles?
Here.
Mrs. Harold?
Here.
Mr. Marvin?
Here.
Mr. Smith?
Here. Okay, thank you. And now we move down to the approval of the agenda for tonight. We have a motion to approve the agenda.
I'd like to remove an item.
Okay.
If possible, item number 5, discuss and act on the LIU intra-school agreement for the health center.
Okay, so the
We'd
motion,
like to table it for the following, I'm sorry, I apologize,
go ahead.
for the next meeting.
okay. So the motion is to approve the agenda with the exception of item 5. Is there a motion?
Move to approve the amended agenda.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Hang on, please slow down for 1 second.
Okay,
Marvin, and who is the second?
I'm just getting-
okay.
You for sure?
You guys, all those in favor? We're good? Okay. Move down to the approval of the minutes from our last meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting?
Move to approve the minutes.
Pop up on yours.
Second.
All those in favor? Any opposed?
I have to abstain because I wasn't here.
I have to abstain, I wasn't here.
Okay.
3.
I'll get it.
All right, let's.
May I ask who was the first and second? I'm
Me.
you and you, okay.
Mhm.
They're also not now.
Okay, so now we move down to our superintendent's report. Dr. Scarnahan.
Thank you. Thank you. It seems like it's been a while since we've been all together. So just have a couple updates. First of all, we did issue the transportation letter regarding the walking trail to our learners who, as a result of the completion of the walking trail, will no longer be bus riders, but would have the opportunity to either walk to school or if their parents would elect to drive them. So that information has been communicated out. We proactively sent out information regarding food service. We had agreed that we were going to go ahead and provide the free breakfast with the understanding that we thought, the budget would support that, the state budget, I would say. That was actually sent out, but we are fortunate that the budget has been approved from the state perspective. There was 567 million in increase to basic ed and 50 million increase to special education. However, our individual allocations have not yet been released, but we are very thankful that the Senate did reconvene and voted to pass the budget in order to get school rolling. This Thursday, we do have the way back meet and greet where we also invited board members. That is at the chamber office beginning at 4:30. It's 4:30 to 6. So all board members are invited. We are super excited that opening day is next week. We do start with new teacher or new educator induction with Dr. Deshawn has taken over that role and responsibility. That starts on the 14th. We do also have a bus driver meeting that day that our admin will be meeting with bus contractors as well as the bus drivers to essentially talk about, transportation needs and, how to proactively respond to students on school buses. And opening day our first in-service day is the 15th. However, our official opening day where we have a guest speaker by the name of George Corus. So this is his book. He's written several books, but we are very excited. We will be hosting Greencastle Antrim and Tuscarora. So he'll be here on next Wednesday. We will have a light breakfast for our faculty and staff in the Washes cafeteria, beginning at 7, and then we would move down to the auditorium for the guest speaker at 8 o'clock. The focus is going to be for everybody from 8 to 10, because both Tuscarora and Greencastle, as well as ourselves, will include support staff. We will have a break around 10:15, and at that time, any of those individuals in our district or the surrounding distance they're coming on school buses, so they'll be returning, and then the remainder of the time will be more more education focused, so our paraeducators, admin, and teachers will remain. And just finally, like just offer our thoughts and prayers and condolences. We had a former student at the Waynesboro Senior, from the Waynesboro Senior High School, who still lives in the community, pass away. So we want to offer thoughts and prayers to the family.
Thank you. Move down to next, public comment. We have Tom and Pat, Spruce. Okay. You can, yes, come to the podium for us. Thank you.
I guess we put this on. Oh, you can hear me without this, right? You guys?
Yes.
Oh,
But yes.
they need to hear, okay.
Yes,
Do I press something when I have to talk or just speaking?
you can just speak.
Oh, just speaking to it? Okay. As you know, good evening, guys.
Ma'am, I'll just need your name and your address for the record.
Oh, Pat and Tom Sproul, 145 West Second Street, Waynesboro, PA, 17268. Okay.
My name is Thomas Sproul Jr. We've been residents of Waynesboro for over 20 years. I should have got here sooner, but 2 heart attacks and 2 strokes. So I'm kind of working my way through it. But I want to start off by saying that in order to make a complete human being, they must know where they came from. They must know some of the heritage that they have. The focus now seems to be on slavery, but I like to go back before slavery. I like to go back when empires, Black empires, all over Africa were thriving. Okay, I like to talk about their contributions, okay, to a world, okay, that we know now. Okay, we have been well versed on math, English, no, what, not English, but a lot of African languages, okay, that can be taught in our schools, okay, with the right help of the right people to facilitate this. Like I said, okay, I've been in Waynesboro for over 20 years. I have a bachelor's degree in theater, and my wife has a master's degree in
Counseling, human development.
well,
Counseling and human development.
okay, all right. So we're well versed on how schools work. Okay, we are looking at a situation where people, kids of color, are getting into trouble, and I believe the cause of this is because they don't know where they came from. They don't know their heritage. They don't know anything about who they are. Okay, I look around this room today, and and I could ask any one of you, where do you come from? And you can tell me. Okay, what's your heritage? And you can tell me. Okay, children of color don't know. Okay, and it has become a world problem, not just Waynesboro, okay, or or other parts, okay, but it has become a world problem because if you don't know where you came from, you don't, you can know, you can not where, not know where you're going, okay, and I believe each one of us can understand that, okay. Um, I like to see a curriculum, okay, for our students, for, for our Black students, as well as any other student that would like to participate, okay. But I I believe that we can solve a lot of the problems that we have if we start from the parents and the schools, okay, to teach these children that they do have a heritage, that they do have a place where they came from. Okay. Um, my research tells me that when the Europeans came to Africa, because they couldn't speak the language, okay, or they couldn't understand, okay, what the what they were saying, they came back and said that we had no history. And that's not true. Okay. Our history is rich. Our history is beautiful. Okay. And we have to get our young people to understand, black and white, that we have a heritage, that we have a place of that, that we can come from. Okay.
Yeah, so I think one of the questions was like, how is that, if I may, how is that being brought into the curriculum? Because my grandchildren went to school out here and I would tell them, bring home your books. Let me see what you're looking at. What, you know? And they said, this is it, Gigi. I said, well, you don't know anything about you? Because that's important. Like you said, my husband said, it's extremely important to know who you are. Okay. It cuts through a lot of the mavericks and the different things that we don't need going on. So a lot of times we're the mentors and other mentors on our family to kind of school them. And like, you see the papers that I had handed out, kind of let you guys know. Like I said, you guys can look all the stuff over on the internet anyway. I mean, and kind of let you guys know that these are things that they need to know. Okay. I think it cuts to a lot of the garbage that's happening. Okay. Especially with a lot of our young people. All right. And then for others to know, I'm a lover of history, European, Roman, Asian, African. Okay. And I feel that we all should be. Okay. We should all should know the truth of where it come from, our contributions, as my husband said, to here about our ships that we had before there were any ships. Okay. The metal, let me see, what do we have here? We had the procedure in vaccinations, autopsy, breaking limbs, cesarean sections, uh, all these things, dental cauterizations. These are all these things that we've done first. Okay. We know about oldest bones found in Africa. We know about the DNA can be searched back to the Ethiopian part of Africa. Okay. Which is the birth of us all, so to speak. But like I said, it'd be nice to see this as part of the curriculum. All right. So this way we can better understand each other, cut through the hate. All right. And just kind of get a good feel for each other. Is that possible? I mean, are you guys a part? I mean, can that be inputted? Am I talking to the right board for that? Let me ask that. Maybe in the wrong place altogether. But am I talking, is this something that you guys can talk to the teachers and maybe through by the books somehow have different types of books? Because there's many books that they can read that will give everybody a worldview. Each of us need a worldview. So is that something that you guys can implement in terms of the curriculum, in terms of more African studies, in terms of more of our contributions? Because I've noticed the books coming home as well. Okay, and I'm going, okay, it's good. I've learned about this myself as well. All right, but what about this? What about that? Did you know that this person did this? We had the first, what would you call it? The flow of flushing? Okay, flushing from the Nile into the sewage. I mean, this is what we've done. Okay, before it was done from any place else. So how is that not, and it makes her feel proud to be who she is. So I'm just trying to think, is there something that you guys can do about that to help, or, and it's somehow, I don't know.
I can respond to that a little. I used to teach social studies here in the district,
Okay,
and where that African history would be covered would be in world history.
okay,
And I know we did the map of Africa every year, as well as some history, the different regions, West Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa,
Okay. North,
South
East.
Africa. Yeah, a lot of
Okay.
Egypt, but not even counting the Egypt part.
no,
Now, I do know, and I've been out for 10 years, but I do know that the world history books, which I have not looked at a recent one lately, but
Uh-huh.
they have a much bigger emphasis on Asia and Africa and even South America, which we
Okay.
almost did nothing with back in the day,
right,
than they did even 10 years ago.
okay,
So I would think you might want to get a hold of a world history book
okay.
and see what's in there. And again, I don't know what the new book is either, but
Right,
it should be
right.
covered in world history, and every student is required to take world history.
Okay.
It's a
Okay.
10th grade course.
Think quick,
Yeah.
yeah, because okay,
Well, one of the things that I found out, in fact, about a year ago, there has been African women that have ruled lands all over Africa. Okay, there have been women that had that 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 have kept slavery out of their country for 40 years. Okay, these women need to be brought to light for our for our young Black women. Okay, to let them know that they come from somewhere. Okay, they come from somewhere. Okay, it, it is not it has not just been the men. Okay, but the women have been a beautiful contributor, okay, of certain countries, okay. Um, 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 in North Africa, okay, um, 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 two of the queens, okay, kept the country from from slavery for 40 years. Okay. All right. And we need to have our young women understand this, that you come from somewhere, you come from somewhere great. Okay.
No, I would just say that with myself, I'm Rita Sterner-Hein, I'm the superintendent, and Dr. Deshawn is our assistant superintendent. So we do have your information. We'd be more than willing to reach out to you following the meeting, like
Okay.
sometime within the next 1 or 2 weeks. We're starting school.
Okay.
So but we will definitely reach out to you and essentially share the resources that we do have. And then most of our curricular resources are online. So but it's still very much a work in progress, but we'll definitely follow up with you.
okay, thank you very
Thank you.
much. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. And also there is an academic, we work in committees here as a board.
Okay,
And there's some of us work with the budget, facilities, and there's an academic committee as well. And those meetings are open to the public, so you're
Mhm.
welcome to come and be a.
that outside of.
Yes, I guess when we get in touch with you, we can let you know what the dates are for those
Okay.
meetings. Mhm,
Appreciate that.
mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for your time.
You have all the committees updated? Not yet?
Not yet.
Okay,
No, we have not.
Okay.
We'll be setting them next week.
perfect. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Great. All righty, let's move on to our first item. Any board reports? Policy? Okay, academic.
Policy will be meeting, the new meeting dates beginning for this school year will be the first Day,
Okay,
of every month, beginning at 1:30. So that first meeting of September 7th. And then we'll be setting the academic, I'll just jump ahead to that. We'll be setting the academic, committee meeting dates within the next. I know Mrs. Kuzma.
academic facilities,
Personnel has met.
personnel met, okay. And facilities met as well.
Oh, yeah. We're the only one there. Yeah. It was a really good meeting and it was, everything's going extremely well over the summer. Dr. Holtzman, is there anything that we need to say about facilities? I mean, it was a good meeting.
It was lots of projects ongoing.
Yeah.
Some will be finished by the end of, or by the beginning of school year. Some will probably lag into a little bit into the school year itself. We do have another meeting coming up here, I think
Next week.
it's next week, yeah, as
Yeah.
well. So, yeah, I mean, overall, going well. I mean, there's always
Yeah,
been
I
issues
think
with some of the
that's really
projects.
about
but
it. It's going well.
We've touched just about every building
Yeah,
this
we
summer,
did.
which is kind
We
of
went-
unusual, but you know, a lot
Yeah.
of veterans may be utilized.
Are there any budget meetings planned yet? or-
They're scheduled. I think the first one we have is in October because there's nothing really new to report in
Okay.
September. Dr. Reader Sternheim dropped the biggest news that the state approved the budget. So
Right.
that's really all we needed at the moment. So.
Thank you. Let's move it along. Okay, first, the personnel, Dr. DeShawn.
Hey, good evening, everyone. If you noticed in the board packet, there's a lot of personnel activity happening and going on. And I know that our administrators and myself can testify to that by the number of amount of time we spent in getting to meet with a lot of folks coming in and, checking folks out and putting them in the positions. But we do have a number of resignations with our professional staff. There's 4 folks, and then there are 8 support staff that are also resigning, and we want to thank them for their time they've spent with us at Waynesboro. We wish them well, and with resignations come openings, and we have a number of those that we're going to be talking about here briefly. Along with resignations, we have a number of reassignments, 2 of them being 2 ladies right across the table here. I know that you've been aware of that. There's a number of kitchen food service folks, as well as a number of paraprofessionals and maintenance workers and so forth there listed. Then we have a number of appointments for our support staff, which there are a lot of paraprofessional educators. I know that Mrs. McDonald, Ms. Richards have been involved in a lot of those interviews, busy with that. And then we have a number of food service appointments we're looking at getting approval for. We have several coaching positions there, and we have some extracurricular we're also looking to move forward. We have 9 support staff appointments, and we also have a list of professional staff folks that we're putting forward. Emily Whitfield to go to 3rd grade at Fairview. Leslie Krebs for family consumer science position, which is a long-term sub position at the senior high school. For those of you who don't know, we do have, I think she's going to run a barber shop, not a barber shop, a hairstyling. But she's going to run, isn't she going to run out of the high school? She told me she's going to cut my hair. I know Dr. Holtzman said that she does cut hair.
Say that she didn't voice.
Okay, all right. Yeah, so
Innocent
Leslie
setting.
Krebs, we're looking at her to move for approval. Mr. Seth Hoffman for special education position. Michelle Dovey, which I know Mrs. McGuire and Ms. Priestler, I spent some time with, and then I had the opportunity also to interview her the other day. They're coming from what, Wisconsin? And they're back to the area though, and they're settling in and quality candidate. Brianna Rowland for special education position. Ella Jones for biology. Ella is also, I actually had a nice conversation back in the spring at a track meet. I got to Casey, one of our school police officers, I was introduced to his fiancee, who happened to be Ella Jones, and they let us know that she is a teacher, and then here she is. She's going to be with us. Just because, not because she's Casey's, but she's a good quality person, you know, so. And then, I want to make that clear. So, and then also we have 4 folks, that, are requesting, leave, childbearing, FMLA, and medical leave, for approval, so.
Okay, all right. So do we have a motion to approve the personnel as listed?
Move to approve.
Second.
Question, what,
Okay.
all those in favor?
No question.
Question, yes?
So for, on the family consumer science position, it was listed as a new position, but then underneath the salary thing, it said something about LTS.
Long-term.
So that's a long-term subcontract.
Yeah,
in that position?
it's not a permanent position,
Gotcha.
Dr. Royer. It's a long-term sub position.
Okay.
Yeah, for this coming year, because of the number of enrollment and
Gotcha.
that are involved in in the program, and then we'll reevaluate, you know, moving forward.
Gotcha, okay.
Okay, any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And Dr. Deshawn, for our new teachers, they have a new teacher induction, and that's Monday. Correct?
Yes, Mr.
Right,
Smith, yeah,
okay.
that's correct. So this coming Monday and then the following Monday, we'll spend the day together. And it's kind of really a team effort. There's folks, administrators, other folks coming in to speak to the new teachers, talk about a variety of different topics and subjects. And then we'll have meetings then once a month after school. I forget, it's Monday after school from 4 to 5. We are introducing, we're not trying to overwhelm or overburden people, but we are going to be sharing a book together. It's called Be the One for Kids. And I can talk to you more about that moving forward, and you'll hear some of it at the dinner. And all of you are invited to the luncheon too, which did you all receive an invitation for that? So if you can make it, that's fantastic. We'd love to have you. I know Mr. Smith's going to say a few words too. And so we appreciate everybody if you can be there. And I know it's busy and everybody's got stuff going on, but you're invited to join us. So.
Thank you, sir. Okay, let's move down to teacher staffing list. Is that? Dr. Deshawn?
Yeah, so you got everybody, well, this was in your packet. This is the folks that are lined up pretty much to be in the buildings across our district. And I don't know if anybody has questions. And again, they'll be probably added to because and even the handbooks, which we'll talk about briefly or two, there's still some openings. Like I know we have one opening we know of for certain. I think it's at WAMS. We're looking for a science teacher. We have another special ed opening yet too, right? In Maori. So we have 2. Yeah, so we have autistic support and a WAM science position that we are working to fill.
Okay. So is there a motion to approve the assignments for district teaching staff as listed?
Move to approve.
Second.
Any questions? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And now to bus and van drivers, Dr. Holtzman.
Thank you very much, sir. So we have the bus and van drivers for your approval. We will update this list throughout the year as those change, but we have for the regular routes with our contractors as well as the non-public schools. And then we also have the list of district employees on there. These are district employees that could potentially transport students for the district. And for that process, we go through a bit of an insurance and a motor vehicle check as part of that process as well.
So the motion is to approve bus van drivers as listed.
Move to approve.
Second.
Questions, comments? All right, all those in,
My only comment is I had a recent conversation with Tim McLeaf from McLeaf Bus Lines, and the question was, oh, do you have enough bus drivers? The answer was yes. You know, so we hear all of, these news things coming across that, oh, bus drivers are, not available, et cetera. But I think locally, we're in good shape. I just wanted to.
No,
pass
I'm
that
glad
along.
you said that, Ms. Zimmerman. I mean, right after the pandemic, starting with the 2021 school year, there were a lot of stories across the Commonwealth of school districts that were struggling to provide transportation, in some cases not able to consistently. And our contractors were staffed the entire time. I mean, given all the issues that they had to deal with as well. So I do give them a lot of credit, so we do appreciate it.
Okay. Move down to bus routes.
Did we vote?
I'm sorry, I'm sorry. we go back. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So motion carries. And as they mentioned, if you just drive wherever, in either direction, you'll see eventually a sign that says hiring bus driver, right?
Yes.
District, right? So. Good shape. Bus routes. Is that Dr. Osman?
Yes, sir. Thank you again. So these are the bus routes for our public runs. I'll tell you now, they do change. So the routes that you're seeing now were probably put together about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. They will continue to change as we have updated enrollments and change routing a little bit here and there. And then we typically do not list our special ed or our non-public routes because those do actually change tremendously. They do change with great frequency in those cases. And they're more of a house-to-house type situation in many of those cases. So, but we do put our regular routes here. Again, there'll be some more changes. We're anticipating next week, these will be loaded into Sapphire then for the parents to see the routes and the times and things of that nature process. So.
Okay, all right. So the motion is to approve the routes that we have as listed.
To approve.
Second.
Okay, any questions?
I have a question. So are these routes, reflective of using, the new?
They do not, unfortunately. So we ran into some wrinkles with the new program. It's still in a process in place, but we ran into an issue with the maps themselves. It took about 6 to 7 weeks for another entity to provide the mapping system for us. And then when they provided the mapping system to us, unfortunately, the addresses did not meet the student information system, Sapphire, that we use. They did not meet. So we had probably, I don't know, maybe 1/4 of the students were not even mapped in the new routing software because our information is probably more detailed. So we would say that a student lives at 101 East 2nd Street and the mapping software said it was E 2nd Street. Literally, they had to be then geocoded individually. So it is a work in progress with the new software. We're going to be using it. The old software, we still have it on our server. That's why we're still using that. And it's going to be probably more conducive to getting those routes up and running this year. But throughout the year, then we'll be switching that over to the new company. Yep. I was disappointed too. It was at least 6 or 7 weeks. I want to say it could have been 8 weeks just to get the bus routing software. And that was not the new company. Had nothing to do with the company. It was another government entity that had to provide the digital maps for us to use. And it took that long to get us the maps, unfortunately. Now, it came without a cost, but nonetheless, it took quite a long time.
So do these routes reflect, it originally talked to me, this was going on several years ago.
Sure.
Did we, were able to eliminate a bus as a result of the walking trail?
We haven't been able to eliminate that yet, not yet, because we had probably between secondary and elementary about 46 students, but it does alleviate some issues with some routing. It does provide some capacity. Usually our problems are more secondary related. Even though the buses say 72 students, you can't put 72 secondary students on there, especially with in the system. But over time, we know we're going to get some savings. We'll by default actually be paying our contractors less because they're not transporting those students. And so we will have a financial savings, even if it's not a full bus at this point.
So just to ask this, because I had several people ask me, and I apologize, I didn't talk to Amir.
That's all right.
I know you put it in the letter of what the maintenance and things were gonna, but I had a question, from 2 people about snow removal.
Sure. So we have talked to the borough. They recognize that we're going to be using that walking path. So if the borough has not cleared I want to say their portion of the walking path, going from Holland Green to our walking path, then they will allow us to go ahead and just clear that section as well for us to go ahead and clear that area. So the idea is to keep that an open pathway and treat that like any of our sidewalks we would have for the district to make it a safe area to get over to the schools. But it's a great question to ask. It really is. It's a
Maybe
concern.
make sure that we clarify that with the borough.
We can do that.
Asking me was on the borough.
Sure, I can go ahead and clarify that. Absolutely. You may know somebody.
You know somebody?
I
Are we
think
paying
there's
for-
some, because that's it's not that many feet between,
No.
No.
only maybe 30 feet or something. It's a
Yeah.
great trail though. It's a great,
No, it is. And again, if we're back there anyway, for us to continue to go down the trail and just plow a little bit more to make that safe, it's pretty easy for us to do something like that. yeah.
Well, they don't plow the trail, do they?
Well, if we're using it, no, they do not. But if we're
Okay.
using it as an established walking,
No, we have
Yeah.
to, but why don't we just do it?
And
Well,
we
I mean, they're
can,
not
right?
gonna trudge through the
Right.
snow and get to that point or come all the way from the beginning with their
Mhm.
plow.
Right. We're not going to stop. To your point, exactly, Ms.
Yeah.
We're not going to stop. We'll go ahead and continue if it hasn't been done already. Again, under the theory, they may do it, they may decide to do it depending on the day of the week and whatever their
Okay.
plans are, but we certainly
I
could
think
take
Mrs.
ownership
Harold
of that.
probably gonna hit the nail on the head. He probably
Yes.
is.
I mean, it's not like it's like the very beginning of the path or something. I mean, it's gonna take them an hour to get down there when we're
Yeah.
right there. It just doesn't
Right.
seem.
I agree. I would certainly follow up and I'll get some information back to you. Thank you.
Our school district, we're good neighbors.
There you
Our,
go.
our district is,
That's right.
is a good neighbor.
Are we paying for two bus? I mean,
So we're not paying for our existing bus software, or I should say the old system software. We actually have that on our server. So we did not have to pay an additional license. We just continued to use it. Now, if we were to need support with that system, we would have to pay on an hourly rate to get support for that. But at this point, we actually own it on the server itself.
okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
no, it's a great question to ask. So
Mhm.
I appreciate our technology department helping confirm that information with us and making sure that they were comfortable and be ready for that process and transition that over this year.
Any other questions? Okay, all those in favor?
I,
Any opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. Okay, we move down to six, PASVO and ESSER consulting contract. Dr. Olson?
Yes, sir. Thank you. So this is the position where, as you know, Ms. Truax is retiring here. She's retiring here at the end of this week, actually, is her final day. And while we have went ahead and we have already promoted an individual into that position, she'll be officially approved then for Monday. We still have some needs with Ms. Truax with our ESSER funding especially. So this is the stimulus funding. This is the money that we've been tracking for the last 3 to 4 years. We're still going to need to track that money for another year into September of 24. So what we want to do is basically, she has been our lead person. She was being paid an additional stipend to help for the additional time. So what we'd like to really is kind of transition that stipend into this contract with PASBO to use her to go ahead and continue providing that tracking work with the ESSER funding so that we can remain compliant, make sure that we're spending the funds correctly. We can even use the funds for those purposes, obviously. But we think this is a good situation. It certainly will benefit the district at a minimal cost realistically. And then the nice advantage is too, is she's available essentially if we do have some other questions as we've made this transition as well.
So the motion is to approve the interim agreement with PASBO for the services of ESSER consultant. Is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second.
Any questions for Dr. Holzman?
No
Comments?
questions, just a comment, just from an audit perspective, this is a great opportunity for us. I can imagine we spent roughly 3.2 million just in ESSER funds this summer. And so, rather than dropping someone brand new to try and manage that when we're audited next year, having, Mrs. Truax's experience and knowledge navigating that, I think will just be a huge asset for the district. So I think, this will be well worth it for us. And I think from a succession planning aspect, she has just a wealth of experience and knowledge that she can still impart on our district. And so if she's as long as we can keep her and have her stick around, I think it'll be well worth it.
Any other questions or comments?
1 year.
1 year.
So the funds have to be expended by September. There's a chance we might come back to you next year and ask for a 2 or 3 month extension. I'm sure there's a potential for that, but we'll have to see where we're at that point a year from now.
The minimum of 5, maximum of 10.
Correct. And there's actually no hours specified in the contract, so we
Right.
can make it less than that if we so need to, but we're estimating maybe 5 to 10 hours a week. Yeah. Bless you.
Okay. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. And bridge replacement.
Yes, sir. So kind of tied into the walking trail that we have. If you know the South Bridge, the bridge closest to probably that development, that has been closed for quite a while. We have some structural issues there. We had an engineer come in. The engineer went through bid specifications. We took those bid specifications to one of our local contractors who has done many projects for us and has been very kind to the district over the years, certainly. A lot of expertise in that area with that contractor. And they gave us two quotes. One is to follow the work on the specs themselves. With the concern that they're just basically following the specifications to make the repairs to the bridge. It would be fully usable and we can continue to use that for pedestrian traffic. But based on the condition of the bridge, their recommendation is to go with option 2, which is about, I think it's less than $1,000 more to actually replace the bridge itself. So what would happen is it would be two parts within their company. One company, part of it would fabricate the bridge itself. The other part would do the actual installation of the bridge itself. They're estimating it would take about 4 weeks to do that. They see a lot of advantages over repairing the actual bridge that's there. Their concern is that 3, 4, 5 years from now, we might be back to where we're at today because some of those areas under that bridge are in poor shape. What's nice about this proposal is that it doesn't touch the water. That's always the big issue with all these bridges. So as soon as you touch the buttresses and as soon as you infringe upon the water area, it involves DEP. This would not involve DEP. So
Right.
while we're still waiting for approval on the North Bridge from DEP, this project could actually be done if we're able to move forward with it. So our recommendation was to go ahead and just actually go ahead and replace the bridge itself using GRC.
Okay.
Not a whole lot more.
No, it's
$1,400 more.
and it's because of labor. It's because basically the one shop can essentially fabricate it in-house. They don't have to come out on site to do it. They can actually do that work in a building area, in their factory area, and then bring it out and then go ahead and install that.
A lot of sense.
It does. I think we'll get a better product probably at the end of the day and something that will last much longer.
So the motion is to approve the replacement of the South Bridge.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any other questions?
I have a comment.
Comments?
Some of these things I've been looking at for 7 or 8 years, and this is one of them. Now, I will say this too, to GRC, this estimate of 40,000 was at least double that years ago when we were looking at it. So I love it's not from GRC. I just love using our local guys who are just, so great for our district and generous and, we all know they do great work. So, hooray, check that one off, just like the walking path, check that one off, a couple more. So.
Will we
good
be
for
able to
us.
drive vehicles over this?
No, sir. No,
So it's still walking
pedestrian
only. Okay.
Yeah. As I'm saying that, we did not ask for something that was vehicle, so it
That's
would have been a
fine.
heavier. Now, once this is said and done, if an engineer says it can take a heavier weight, then we would look at that. But really, our goal is just to go ahead and use a pedestrian.
That's
Yeah.
fine.
Okay, any other questions? Comments? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Right. We move down to student handbooks, 2023-24.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Smith. So the handbooks, I think, been available to you all for at least the past 2 weeks or so. They're here for approval. Does anybody have any questions or wonderings about any of the handbook changes or otherwise?
Are these now electronic copies only?
They're available online, and we're not like giving them out or
Don't
handing
get
them
a
out.
handbook like they did when my girls were in school that they carried all day. Okay. Okay. Okay.
Well, do the high school kids go over the handbook or anybody? Do they go over it? So they're just looking at it online when they're going through it? Or is it just more of a summary? Because that's what we used to do in advisory, Dr. McCallum. So there you got time now. Maybe you can do it. How about that?
So we do a summary. We do it, the admin does that, and we're planning a new format to do that at the high school this year, going class by class instead of 300 kids in the auditorium at the same time. But then the families all sign an acknowledgement, and the secretaries work on making sure we get those papers back so that should something transpire, that handbook acknowledgement is included in the board packet when we have a disciplinary committee meeting.
And when we have move-ins during the course of the year,
Mhm.
the counselor that's
counselors
assigned
do
will
that.
take some
Mhm.
time to go over the handbook as well, because we've encountered issues with that someone moves in
Yes.
and then they say, well, we never realized that was in a handbook.
Well,
So-
and Dr. Kopko and Mr. Bigler worked this summer on revising the handbook acknowledgement form to draw attention to say the fact that we have parking permit expectations and dance expectations and the disciplinary consequences of certain infractions so that hopefully it's a little bit more obvious and not, I didn't know that.
Okay, so the motion is to approve the student handbooks for 2023-24.
Move to approve.
Any other questions? Comments?
Just a comment, the handbooks are like, are excellent.
Mhm.
And I don't think I've ever seen them done so completely, and I know the incredible amount of admin, in terms of consistency. I was telling Dr. McCown the other day, with her newsletter that she put out, I mean, that was like a newsletter for me. You could never say you were not informed in this district. So I think that that's really, kudos.
Yeah, I would also echo that WAMS has also been publishing a newsletter. And I think it's a real testimony to our admin team in terms of how they're really collaborating and working together. So during the course of the summer, when something came up, we said, well, we need to add that into the handbook. And then it became a matter of, let's draft something and make sure we share it across the board. The electronic version does allow us to make changes as necessary, because it's one of those things, old school, we would get this hard copy. And then if we needed to change something like the dress code, for example, it became more difficult. So if there is a situation where we'd have to change any of the handbook information, the parents will be notified through a borough blast. Information would be updated in the handbook and it would reflect that. Handbooks are also available online. And as Mrs. McGuire indicated, any parent who wants a hard copy, we would definitely provide that to them.
Okay, thank you for saving all that paper. Any other comments, questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next we move to, is this Salient? Laserworks.
So this is a contract for online speech services for Maury Elementary. So the recommendation is to approve this contract.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the contract?
A new contract, Dr. Stern, renewal.
It's a renewal, but it's a
Different company.
different company. You might,
Covering it.
Yeah, are these people out of Harrisburg?
gonna have to,
You gotta come to
Come
the
up.
mic.
I'm just gonna start miking them.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
So they're actually, what happens is when you start working with Salon, they actually have an agreement and a company, it's called Blazerworks. So you're actually getting, whenever they look for potential people, they actually open it up to their sister companies. So you have a lot more range that you're going with. So the individual that we're going to be working with is living in Florida, actually. So there's different spots all over. Yeah. Anything else?
So we have bus drivers, but we do need more speech therapists on site, so,
And psychologist.
and psychologists, so we're gonna keep working it, so.
The school the school psych evals online still are a little baffling to me.
I-
But from what I understand, from knowing it's in some cases better because there's like,
And the technology, the kids like the technology, but I will say one thing that we do as a district, we have a paraeducator that'll be there with the child so that they can help to support in case the child gets stuck or is off task. So it is a little bit of in-person and then working with the person online. So that's been very successful.
Okay, I have a question. At the bottom there, it's talking about the technology fee, which is 0 because they give you, what exactly what are we getting?
It is their program, their platform that they use to provide the services. So their materials are all online and based through the computer.
Okay, but it talks about stations.
A VocoVision station.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
So it's called a
just one-
station where they use the platform that they have.
Okay, but we're just we're sending it to just the kids' Chromebooks, or is this some special device?
No, it'll be on their, they'll use their own Chromebooks.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
And the speech therapist will bring it up and share their screen.
Okay, so then my last question is, okay, so me doing the math. But what's listed here, 37.5 hours per week, $98.37 an hour, that's $147,555. Okay, if I did that correctly. So are we saying in a sense, we're paying for one person to do this, it's costing us $147,000?
Unfortunately, that's the contracted price because we're not able to actually find people in person.
But we've had 3 people. So if we had 3 people full-time, that would have been more than $147,000.
No, it was 3 people, that their hours added up. I believe it was a little bit more than the 37 hours.
Okay.
But it
so
was
the
split.
combined 3 people.
But imagine like 3 people trying to handle a caseload of 60 students. So it got very difficult and a date was missed. So that's why I chose to go with a different company to look for one that could give us the 5 days.
Well, okay, I mean, I get it. I just, want to make the comment that this is a kind of, of course, we have to do speech.
Mhm.
Okay, and when people look at the budget and the finances and people who still think we have to raise taxes because those darn teachers are making too much money. Okay, these kind of non-funded mandated, they're funded to some degree. We don't have a choice in these.
Mm-mm.
And if you looked, I'm sure Mr. Holtzman has a whole list of unfunded mandates, unfunded mandates that we don't have a say in it. And then you tackle on the ones that aren't mandated, but we do anyway, like Inspire programs and one-to-one and all those things. I mean, that's where a lot of our money goes. So, I mean, I know you guys all know that, but I'm just, it's a lot of money that go to other things besides what most people think of the daily, day-to-day education of our kids. That's my point.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, just to give you a heads up, we had another person that has already been approved that was contracted to be in person and they have resigned. So I'll be back one more time.
Mm.
So I'm working on finding a replacement for speech.
Thank you for all your work.
Anything else?
Any
Thank
other
you.
questions? Okay, thank you. So the motion is to approve the addendum, Soliant addendum.
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Now we move down to physicians contract for 23-24.
Yeah, so in the board docs, you will see the contract with WellSpan. It's just the renewal of our physician contract for the 2023-24 school year.
Okay, so the motion is to approve the contract with WellSpan.
Move to approve. Second.
Okay, any questions?
My question is this just, I mean, I realize that we contracted with WellSpan last year. Do we put this out for bids, or is WellSpan the only person around who could possibly supply?
I would have to say that at this point, we have fallen into a pattern. I know I had the responsibility a number of years ago as a building principal. It came under other duties as assigned, and we were going to a lot of local physicians. I believe it's a little more complicated by today's standards. And if you see, there's things that they need to sign off from athletic trainer perspective. And so, but that's a good question. I would have to say that I've been satisfied, or we have been satisfied with WellSpan, and I believe they've been an excellent partner and have been very supportive of the school district. But Dr. Holtzman, I don't recall if this is something we are required to,
Because it's a service, technically, we're not required to actually go out and bid this. You're allowed to go ahead and just identify a company that can provide a reasonable and a responsible cost for the district. So there's no purchasing or code issues with that, to the question from the state perspective.
But if
Um,
there's a desire of the board to, I mean, at this point, I'm respectfully requesting that we move forward in light of the fact that football season's just around the corner.
Correct.
However, if that is something you would like me to explore, for next school year, we could definitely entertain that.
and I know I just had a conversation with Mr. Mapwell. I think they just did the physicals, for example. Was it last week? I think it
Yeah,
was.
I think he announced.
But I can't remember the numbers, but in 2 days or a day or two, they're able to, they have multiple physicians come in at the same time and they're able to come through and take all the kids through and get their physicals pretty quickly. But he would probably have some input as well, I think, in that process. Sure.
Well, unfortunately, we do not have the individual physicians' offices as we did in the past. It's basically the corporate like WASD. So I'm not objecting to it. It was just a question.
Okay.
Well, I would like to know about the athletic trainer. Like, this is a trainer that's at the physicals? Who is this trainer?
Well, it talks about the requirements of the athletic trainer. So, it is on Exhibit E. Is that what you're talking?
Now, I'm looking at the
License?
costs, cost and billing of services. Okay, the physicals themselves, $15 physical physician services, but then 35 an hour for a trainer. Like, what is that? Like, what is a trainer doing at a physical? Or is that at a game? That's just what I'm asking.
We do have our own athletic trainer. I would
Right.
go back and get clarification. Obviously, they can't bill us without, us in, right, an invoice. I would have to go back. I'm not sure specifically if that's a situation where our athletic trainer is not available.
I think that's what.
I mean, it's
might be.
as needed.
like, yeah.
Yes. So if our trainer can't be there, that's what they would charge.
Yeah, that's what I'm assuming.
Which has occurred at times and for different purposes.
It's a nursing thing. Yeah.
Thank you.
No, normally Marla is everywhere and
Right.
doing an outstanding
Right.
job.
Right.
On occasion, when she would like to go see her own child play somewhere,
Yeah, okay.
Then we
Just-
get WASD. Yeah.
Okay,
makes
got it.
sense.
Got it. Thank you.
All right, any other questions? Okay, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Now we move down YMCA agreement.
So again,
Smith?
this is the renewal of the YMCA agreement for the use of our facilities for their before and after school program. Again, another partner that we have had for a number of years in the school district. So the recommendation is to renew this contract.
Okay, so his motion is to approve the agreement with the YMCA. Is there a
Move to
motion?
approve.
Second.
Okay, any questions? Comments? Okay. all
They're
those-
at all 4 elementary schools now, right? Okay, great.
Any other questions? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and we move down to Arbiter Sports, Arbiter Pay.
Okay, is there, Dr.
Dr.
Holtzman?
Yes, thank you, ma'am. So we've been using Arbiter Pay for about 2 years now. What this is this is a service that a lot of districts have used to basically pay our referees. So instead of having to cut checks and then somebody cancels or has to back out, and then we're canceling checks and cutting new checks and going through that process. Basically, this is an electronic system whereby we're able to pay those officials through the Arbiter system. So this would be our 3rd year that we're starting to use the system. They're changing their rate structure a little bit. They're now offering a flat fee rate as well as a transaction fee. It's essentially a wash for us if we do the flat fee versus the transaction. If we do a flat fee, it actually saves us a lot of coding issues because we have to code the transaction fees every time they come through as well. And then as we've continued to see, I think from an athletic perspective, we seem to continue to expand our sports, which is good. We have a lot more opportunities for our students. So as those expand and we need more referees, this will probably be more advantageous just to go ahead and stick with kind of a flat fee for 3 years. So they offered a 5-year agreement, but we'd really prefer just to keep it a shorter time span. We hate to go out 5 years unless we absolutely need to go out 5 years with an agreement, just because things can change. But it's worked really great. This would be year 3 that we're using them.
So the motion is to approve a 3-year flat rate agreement with Arbiter Sports.
Move to approve.
Second.
Just clarifying, that means the service is a flat fee, not the pay for the refs as a flat fee.
Correct. Well, and technically it's not a flat fee. I apologize. It actually has a slight increase each year of the agreement, but it's still advantageous to us. But you're correct. The referee fees do change. In fact, I know I have that somewhere. I think Mr. McElwain provided that for me, that they are going up over the next couple years. The referee costs, and it's just like everything else with labor. It is really hard to find referees and officials for a lot of the sports.
Yeah, some of them are wanting combat pay too, probably.
I do not envy a lot of them. I truly don't. They have a very tough situation, that's for sure. I don't think you can make anybody happy in a lot of situations. I was trying to bring it up here fast, but it doesn't look like it's going to come up that, oh no, here it is. So rates going out through 2026. So for example, this coming year, one of the rates would be for cross-country $70. It goes up to 75. A lot of the rates are going up about another $5 per game is what it looks like, a lot of them. And it varies by each sport. So very interesting.
Also varies by county.
Does it?
Adams County always paid better than Franklin County.
Huh.
Believe it or not.
Pretty high.
Well, I'm not so sure, because they got a team.
And it's structured,
Everybody else has like two. Everybody has like two.
There you go.
and it's structured in a unique way. Like if it's a need for 3 officials at a wrestling match, they get paid less than if there's only 2 officials at the
Oh,
match. So they get paid more because they obviously have to manage the same amount of work,
Okay.
but
Huh.
so it's a very unique structure that they have set up. I don't know how this gets approved through PIAA, but nonetheless, this is what we have. Yes, ma'am.
I've been to this, I've just read this for the 4th time. Is there a money amount in here?
Sure, yes. So it's $1,520 this coming year is what we would be.
that in
Above,
here
above
somewhere?
where it says public content.
It's up in the recommended
terms and
action.
conditions.
Recommended action.
You go right above that.
Let me see if it's also in the agreement itself.
15, 20, 16, 15, and 17, 15.
Double check here.
No, wait.
No, I was looking at the document. I was reading the contract.
Yeah, the numbers I have in there are what were quoted to us, so I probably have those on a separate email.
Yeah, I'm good.
Any other questions for Dr.
welcome.
Holtzman?
We don't have to do 1099s for all those folks. I think it's worth it. Just saying.
Yeah, so,
You didn't
yeah, that's certainly, I would say that the officials probably, some officials, I want to make it a blanket statement, but I think some officials probably preferred the older system because an individual school district typically did not hit the $600 mark with a referee or an official. But now that it's through one company and all the districts are using that, the IRS is probably a little happier.
Oh.
Yeah.
They get happy.
Okay. All right, any other questions? All right, all those in favor?
Uh,
Any opposed?
Thank you.
I need to abstain.
One up.
Want to know why?
I know.
Yeah. All right, let's move down to Admentum Apex licenses. This is just for discussion or just informational?
No, yeah, so this service has been being used in the district. High school at Washes. General education. Also uses it at the middle school. And so we have, it's Mr. Erickson and Dr. Sternheim, all of us have been trying to hit these folks up and get the salespeople, and we were on, Erickson, I actually were on a phone, a Google Meet with one of the educational specialists as well as one of the salespeople, trying to work out cost. I know Dr. Holtzman was in.
Dr. Deshawn, can you please move your microphone?
Yeah, sorry about that. I know you can hear me. I guess it has to be on the TV that can hear me or not. So Nick, I was just talking about you and talking about how you, myself, Dr. Sternheim, We've been heavily involved in trying to work, negotiate the cost of this amendment that's being heavily used in our district right now. It provides a lot of courses that are available to our with Mr. Lane, our gen ed students, as well as our summer school students. Mr. DeAndres has used it also. I know Dr. McCallum and I had some conversations looking at potentially building some of our own courses and our own catalogs as we move forward. But we know we're not going to be able to do that in the next year or two. I think that's going to take some time to do that. So we're recommending that we continue with this this resource that, again, it's heavily used specific at the high school, but also very much so at the middle school.
So, yeah, so it actually is an action item. So is there a motion to approve the 2023 through 26 agreement with Edmonton?
Move to approve. I do have a question.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how much are the kids using it for credit advancement? Would I have to ask Diane that?
So what we started doing the last 2 years is trying to pivot towards our own courses for credit advancement, and discouraging core classes for, just because, well, I shouldn't say that, like during the summer session, trying to get a 1 credit class done in 5 weeks. I'm just not confident that you're actually learning anything. We do have a good number of students that take credit advancement during the school year. It might be career tech students who are trying to make sure they can take an honors level class the semester they're with us and need the prereq. We also have our early grads. So many of them are taking an extra class in addition to their load at home. So the one that we use pretty frequently for credit advancement is the one for PE. Because the department has looked at that class and feels like it's pretty good alignment for what they typically do in like a personal fitness type class. It certainly doesn't align with like what they would be doing in class. And then over the summer, we added the optional fitness walks and different activities that Miss Henderson and Miss Mowen did with them that really were a great way for them to get to know other students. And like I know Stacy took them on a local history walk. She took them to Renfrew. So there was a lot of kids that came in for those, and then health.
good.
So all the other ones, like the big one was personal finance and the public speaking class. Those are our courses that the teachers created in Schoology. And next up that we're going to get started on is our math classes, so that they're better aligned to our curriculum. So anybody who's doing original credit, as we start creating these courses, are going to take our courses in Schoology. That way, if students want to pivot back into the building, they have the knowledge that we expect them to have for the next class in the sequence. But if they're in credit recovery, we do feel like Apex is a really good solution. They're one of the few online programs that offers differentiation within the program. So you can have above grade level for a student who's looking to take an honors class. They have AP classes for students who want to like take something that we don't offer. And then they do have some like the reading level is a little bit more simplified for some of our students. And then they also have a program they're like throwing it in for free. And that's what's on the quote that's called tutorials. That was actually the program that we started with Apex like over 10 years ago. It's for Keystone exam review. So versus me coming back to you in a few months and asking for several $100s to buy Keystone coach books, we're going to try to utilize those this year.
Can they access that Keystone from home?
Yeah, just like anything with Apex, it's anytime, anywhere that you are on an internet connected device.
Yeah.
And I should know this, but is there a limit to how many credits you can do with credit advancement?
I don't know that we've officially stated that, but my personal experience is that students especially in the summer, they typically don't get more than 2 classes done or like 1 credit. So, we certainly have some super motivated students, like especially those that are in our Endeavor program. They can maybe get a course done a month if they're really, really motivated to do so.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing. I appreciate the Edmonton program is because it doesn't say that all kids have to fit through sort of the same little space.
Mhm,
And it allows those kids who need to catch up to catch up. It
mhm,
allows those kids who want to go ahead, to get ahead, to get ahead.
mhm, exactly.
So we're not constraining them in any kind of way. So
Mhm.
that's, it's great.
Yeah, and also at this point, our teachers that support Endeavor and also our our credit advancement students, they're very familiar with the courses. So for them, in terms of the grading and things, it's pretty quick process for them to give good feedback to the students.
Okay, so any other questions or comments? All right.
Just the comment, I know this is not a criticism of our team or the administration, but I think if we're having a hard time trying to get a service or a wholesaler, we should go above them. That's been my experience, 'cause we are the client in this case. And so we should be the one, we shouldn't have surprise $8,000 increases. Like we should know this ahead of time. So that's not a criticism of our team. But it sounds like if they had a hard time getting a hold of us, I have no problem trying to figure out who's actually going to give us the answer and what we need. So, especially with the way budgets work, I don't think we should be surprised with a last minute $8,000 increase. I think if they want our business, they need to give us a heads up that they want to do that. Again, I'm not against the service. I'm not against that. I think I just don't like surprise $8,000 increases on anything. So.
And Mr. Martin, if I could just chime in, I'm totally in agreement with you. And again, as we discussed, I can't remember, we did get it 2 or 3 weeks ago, and we've been trying to connect with them. They continue to say it's an enrollment issue. That's what they threw at us. It's the number of students that were enrolled, the usage and so forth. And I know again that Dr. Holtzman and Nick and I, we said the same thing in our Google Meet with them. We said, and I think right now, and Dr. Holtzman and I had this conversation with the ESSERS money that we've had and all districts have had available to them sort of as, and I don't want to call it free money because it's not free money, right? But it's this kind of like bonus money the districts have gotten because of COVID, right? These service providers have been able to kind of almost kind of put they've been able to sort of take advantage of it and say, well, they all this money, we're going to, and again, we made the conversation saying like, hey, here's the deal, if you guys continue to do this to us and to other districts, the bottom line is we're going to end up using another provider. We'll create our own services to do this. Other companies are going to come along to be more competitive. I said, because we were saying like, we can't continue to pass the cost on, to our folks in our district because obviously, there's costs that, you guys have, but you need to be a lot more reasonable than this. And again, I know Nick and I were in the room, and Nick, I don't know if you want to chime in on that conversation or not, because I know you don't want to, but we were coming back at them, and there's still a chance, there's still a possibility that we may get a lower, it may come in a little lower. So we've been still kind of back and forth with them. So thanks, you're right.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I just, in my experience, they need us more than we need them. And, I'm very highly confident in our teachers and they being able to pivot. I don't want to put them in that position. And that's not saying, but I think, in come 3 years time, I feel very confident that we could find another company doing something very similar. But again, I appreciate the work that you all went through. And again, that's not a criticism of the work you guys did, more just frustration with how sometimes companies operate.
All right, any other questions, comments? All right, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we move down to purchase orders and bills for payment. Dr. Holtzman.
Yes, sir. And with your permission, we'll do 1 through 4, but if not, we can separate them.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So we have purchase orders and bills for payment. This is general fund and cafeteria fund as well. We still have POs coming in through some of the buildings as well. Property assessment changes. There were a couple items there. Some were due to demolished mobile homes, and one is a veterans exemption who is now 100% disabled. There's also a Court of Common Pleas petition for a judicial sale. It did not sell at the normal upset sale, so now it goes through a judicial process to sell the property. And then finally, we have exonerations from JP Harris for older per capita and occupation taxes.
Okay, so motion is to approve our 4 items listed in under financial business. Their motion.
Move to approve the financial business.
Second.
Questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Okay, so. Lastly, Clayton Cabinet comments.
So I just want to give a big shout out to Dr. Deshawn and the admin team. We had an amazing day today at the Institute. The admin team read the Power of Positive team. And under Dr. Deshawn's leadership, we had a day of sharing our individual chapters. And would you like to elaborate? We have some extra handouts. Take it away.
No, I just want to say, and I sincerely mean this, and I appreciate that, Dr. Sternheim. I mean, it was a great team effort, and that's really what the book was all about. But it's if you would have been there, I just say this. I mean, to see the talented group of folks, I think you know this already, but I mean, honestly, I'm going on 7 months here, but we truly do have a talented group of folks working together, and it was just really great to see that in action today as we were able to spend the day together. You know, it's easy again to get caught up in the busyness of everything we do, but to really be able to step back and do it purposefully and intentionally and mindfully to really truly appreciate people for the things we do. Not just because like this is our job and we do it, but truly because you know, we have a heart for this and we care about people. And again, it was just great to see that, and we want to continue moving forward that. So thanks, I appreciate it. Again, it was just a real great team effort. So.
And the slideshow, this was a communication exercise where you had to trust your partner to be able to communicate accurately. And so, yeah, but it was an amazing day.
Yeah, and I'll just say too, not only just communication, but we were talking really about feedback, right? So, you know, every single role that we have, if we're not giving feedback to folks, we're not going to grow, right? So teachers to students, us, the teachers, and collectively back and forth with one another, you know, and there's good feedback and there's not so good feedback. There's kind of proper ways, or there's better ways to deliver feedback too. You know, it's like with this activity we did, if your feedback's not timely, it could get somebody in trouble because you're blindfolded. So, you know, you have to give somebody and specific feedback also. It has to be specific. It has to be timely. It has to be specific. It's like, you know, it's like, you taught, Mrs. Harrell, you taught Mrs. Zimmerman. We you know, if you see a kid do something in class and you tell them like 3 weeks later about something they need to do it differently, that's not going to help them at all, you know. So like it's all of us trying to help support each other and grow each other. And again, so yeah, it was fun. And again, it was just a great team effort.
I just think it's wonderful that the board is supporting the efforts of, you know, Dr. Klein and his professional development of the admin that he started with the Gettysburg work, and, you know, what you've continued with Flight 93. Thinking of the gentleman that just spoke today, sometimes it's good to have some background. And I think it's important for the board to know that I was not as fortunate to have that support. And I can recall it's been a decade. In 2013, when I went to the board, asked for them for funding for an admin retreat. The response I got was, why would we do that? And when I tried to explain them to them, they said, well, you can do it if you want to pay for it. So we've come a long way in a decade. And I'm not embarrassed to say that publicly because it's true. And I think that as kudos for the board here, and also you're demonstrating the need for it and why it's so important, and to not pay good attention to our administrative team.
And if I could say too, Dr. Thanks for sharing those comments. So we did have the day out at the Institute and Tracy's a fantastic person, and we greatly appreciate her and her staff. Pam and Jessica were out there. They were just gracious hostesses. Is it hostesses? Is that how you say that word? They were gracious hostesses or hosts or whatever. But you know what I mean. So they were just so, we went out numerous times and yesterday, we want to thank our grounds crew for delivering some chairs out there. It's just a great site, a great place to be. And we appreciate them for partnering with us, and it's a good partnership to have with them. So.
It's just great you could do something like that locally.
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah.
a lot of times you think about doing those team building things and having to go to some place that's not, local. So the fact that you could get that same experience. So places, and I'm sure expensive.
Sure.
Well, Dr. Roy, speaking of support, we were talking about going to Acadia National Park next summer. So, just want to put that on the radar. So it's going to be a great time, and I can tell you all the rationale reasoning why you want to support them. Thank you for your support.
Right. Okay, any other comments? Okay, board
Board member
members'
comments?
comments, yes.
I'm excited about marching band this year because my grandson is in the high school band and I got to go to the band parent meeting Monday night because my daughter was at Santa Quippy with my granddaughter. And they're really excited about their new uniforms. They're excited that the board, those old uniforms are 20 years old. When I suggested, were they going to try to donate the old ones? They said they're literally, some of the pants are just falling apart. So they're not sure what they're going to do with the old ones. And then I went to see the performance on Friday night. And I've done a lot of those first, probably 12 of them. This one was really good. Some of them are not always so good that first night. But these kids really looked good and sounded good. I was impressed. So kudos to Mr. Ritter and Mr. Thorpe and all the helpers.
I agree. I was there on Friday night as
Were ya?
well. And yeah, they did excellent job. Yeah.
Any other board comments?
Yeah, I would.
Yes, ma'am.
So I'd like to go through all the schools before school starts. And Monday I did the high school and the middle school. And I forgot to tell you I was doing that. But
Okay.
yeah, but I
See on the camera.
Oh, yeah, I talked to the secretaries, I talked to the admin that was there, walked through the schools, and high school and middle school look great, very clean, floors look great. I was especially happy to see at the middle school, that art room that was kind of a disaster, looking much better. It's not quite done, but it's a lot better. And the courtyard, oh my goodness, the courtyard is going to be really, really nice. The furniture wasn't there yet, but they were working really hard on it. But anything I saw was really positive at both the middle school and the high school.
Who else was James?
Yeah, so this morning I had the opportunity to go to the Cumberland Valley Business Alliance Educational Summit Breakfast. Was at the Career Tech Center, and that's just a great place to go and to visit. But one of the things that was announced is the foundation board for Chambersburg is a EITC award grantor. And Mr. Keith McCrae has, for the third year in a row, won a recipient of an EITC technology grant. So again, much kudos to him and the work that he is doing. Winning anything 3 years in a row is impressive. But I don't remember exact dollar amount, but it's probably around $5,000 for this grant for work that he's doing with our students. And so I think it's just impressive work. And he doesn't limit it to one school. He goes to all the different schools. And if you get a chance to chat with him, he has this master plan from like 12th grade and how they're going to code and build programs so kindergarten students can learn. And so this is kind of like another step in this kind of grand master plan for how technology can benefit and educate our students. And so I just wanted to give a shout out to Mr. McCrae for the work that he's done. And It's not a small thing to, one, write a grant, but then be a 3-year grant award winner. So many thanks to him and the work that he's doing.
Mr. Marvin, where did you have that breakfast?
It was at the Franklin County Career Tech Center.
Got it right. Thank you.
Anyone else? And I want to agree with you here. But yeah, just thanking everyone who had a hand in making and preparing the grounds, the curriculum, everything for our students to return. So it's no small thing, especially over the summer when you have to go in and the buildings have to be deep cleaned, every single room, and all of the things that go into preparing, making facilities and everything nice for the students' return. The second thing that I want to say, I'm going to switch places. I'm going to move over to the podium. Okay, so I have Mrs. Harrell and Mrs. Sullivan to join me at the podium. All right, so on behalf of the Pennsylvania School Board Association, right? We're here to honor a few school board directors for their years of dedication to the Waynesboro Area School District. School board service has long been a crucial part of our nation's legacy in its commitment to public education. At the first School Boards Association in the United States, PSBA has a rich history with more than 125 years of service. The consummate school directors are described as ethical, principled individuals with a deep desire to serve. They believe in the value of our public schools and local control of public education for the benefit of all students. Today's school districts are expected to offer more services along with world-class instruction with limited resources. These expectations provide a tremendous challenge for school directors, unpaid volunteers who dedicate their time to the schools and communities they serve. For almost 40 years, PSBA has been acknowledging the contributions of dedicated local school directors for long-term service. The honor roll is the association's way of thanking those individuals who exemplify leadership by giving unselfishly of their time and talents for the betterment of the public schools serving students across the Commonwealth. And so I am pleased to recognize two of our own board members for being a part of this rich legacy. First, this certificate of appreciation is awarded to Carol Harrell in a recognition of ongoing school board service and the long-term contributions of individuals who bring their energy, talent, and values to the guidance of youth and public education in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All three of us.
Okay.
Wait till, yeah.
Also, an appreciation, certificate of appreciation, Cindy Sullivan, in recognition of ongoing school board service and the long-term contributions of individuals who bring their energy, talent, and values to the guidance of youth and public education in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Great. Can we? Everybody, can Mark look forward?
Yeah.
All right. It's awesome. Do another photo op then. That's awesome. Yeah, for 8 years of service.
Right. On that excellent note, we will adjourn. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. And so we will be going into an executive session and not returning.
All right.
Good evening, folks.
I